Pistachio and orange is a delicious flavor combination that's often overlooked. Today, we are going to be making this gorgeous pistachio and orange tart that's composed of a nutty tart shell, a pistachio pandan, a pistachio pastry cream, fresh oranges and orange cremeux, and a Swiss meringue. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, keep watching. First, we're gonna get started on our almond tart shell. This is my go-to tart shell recipe. I absolutely love this one. I use it all the time, and I always make a bigger batch because this tart dough freezes perfectly and will freeze for up to 6 months. So this recipe I'm going to show you is going to yield 2 tart shells, but if you only want to make one today, I will divide the recipe and put it in the description bar below. We are going to start by paddling 180 grams or 12.5 tablespoons of room temperature butter with 127 grams or 2/3 cup of confection sugar. Once that is smooth, we are going to add in 1 large egg and 1 large egg yolk and allow that to mix in completely. In this bowl, I am combining 200 grams or 2 cups of almond flour with 196 grams or 1¼ cup of all-purpose flour and whisk that to combine. Now we can add our dry flour mixture into the KitchenAid and paddle that until a dough forms. This tart dough is half all-purpose flour and half almond flour, so it does not have as much gluten structure as a full flour tart shell would. So don't be alarmed if it feels a little bit soft to the touch. Then we are going to wrap this tightly in saran wrap and refrigerate it for 3 to 4 hours. Or you can split this into 2 and freeze half for up to 6 months. Now let's move on to our pistachio pandan. A pandan is a cake made with almond paste and melted butter, similar to a madeleine but full of almond flavor. First, we are going to start with 170 grams or 3/4 cup of almond paste. You want to use your almond paste at room temperature and paddle it for a few minutes to really break up the texture and to help soften it so that it mixes really well with the rest of our ingredients. Once the almond paste is soft, we can add in 40 grams or 2 tablespoons of pistachio butter and paddle that until combined. Next, we are going to add in 120 grams or 2 large eggs and 1 large egg yolk. You want to make sure that you're adding in your eggs one by one and scraping the bowl in between each addition so we can make sure everything is properly combined. Now we are going to add in 24 grams or 2 tablespoons of sugar, followed by 2 grams or half a teaspoon of salt. Next is 30 grams or 1/4 cup of flour. And finally, we are going to slowly stream in 55 grams or 4 tablespoons of melted butter. And you want to mix that just until it is combined. Your batter should be silky, smooth, and completely uniform. Now we are going to spread this onto a sheet tray. And I know that this does not seem like a lot of batter, but we need this cake to be super thin because we don't have a lot of real estate in that tart shell. So bake this at 325 for 6 to 8 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. And let's move on to our orange cremeux. This cremeux is very simple but so bright and delicious. We are going to start with 84 grams or the juice of 1 large orange. You want to make sure that you're squeezing fresh orange for this. Do not use the bottled stuff. And we are going to gently heat up the orange juice. In a bowl, I have 100 grams or 2 large eggs, and I'm going to combine this with 63 grams or 3 tablespoons of sugar and whisk it to combine. Once the orange juice starts to steam, we are going to begin tempering the eggs by pouring in about 3/4 of our orange juice and whisking it quickly, then pouring the eggs back into the pot over low heat and whisking it until it begins to thicken. If you want to be very precise and use a thermometer, you want to get this to about 85 degrees Celsius. Another way to know that this is ready is that the mixture will become thick, kind of like a lemon curd, or it will coat the back of your spoon. Once we reach temp, we are going to remove this from the heat and whisk in 9 grams or 3 sheets of bloomed gelatin, followed by 100 grams or 7 tablespoons of butter, and 50 grams or a third cup of high quality white chocolate. The chocolate that I'm using today is Ivory by Michelle Cluzel. Finally, we can transfer this into a clean bowl and suffocate it with saran wrap, meaning that we are going to push down the saran wrap so that it touches the surface of the Cremeux so that it doesn't have a chance to form a skin. And we are going to stick this in the fridge and allow it to crystallize for at least 8 hours. Now let's move on to our pistachio pastry cream. In a pot, we are going to combine 180 grams or 3/4 cup of milk and 60 grams or a 1/4 cup of cream. In a separate bowl, I am going to combine 19 grams or 2.5 tablespoons of cornstarch with 21 grams or 1 tablespoon of sugar, and just stir that to break up the cornstarch so that we don't have any clumps later on. Then we are going to combine this cornstarch mixture with 50 grams or 3 large egg yolks and whisk that until it is completely combined. And once the milk starts to steam, we are going to temper the eggs just like we did with the orange Cremeux, and we are going to cook this until the eggs begin to thicken, and then we are going to cook it for an additional 45 seconds over low heat to ensure that we're cooking out all of that floury flavor that's present in the cornstarch. Then we can remove this from the heat and whisk in 50 grams or a third cup of white chocolate and 50 grams or 3 tablespoons of pistachio butter. And just like the orange Cremeux, we are going to transfer this into a clean bowl, suffocate it, and stick it in the refrigerator to cool. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to pull my tart dough out and I'm going to begin to roll it between 2 pieces of parchment paper. If you find that whenever you roll your tart dough, it starts to crack and you can't get a nice even press out of it, try to knead your tart dough for about 2 to 3 minutes before you start rolling it out. This will kind of soften and warm up the dough and make everything a little bit more pliable and easy to work with. You want to roll this tart out as thin as you can get it. I got it to about 1/8 of an inch thin here, as you can see. And then we can place this into our tart ring and press it really well into those corners. Using a small paring knife, you want to trim the top of your tart and then take a fork and poke a bunch of holes into the bottom of the tart to ensure proper ventilation. Then we are going to bake this at 325 for 10 to 15 minutes or until the tart shell is golden brown, and then allow it to cool completely before we are ready to assemble. While our tart is cooling, let's make a quick Swiss meringue and segment some oranges. For the Swiss meringue, we are going to place 100 grams or half a cup of egg whites and 150 grams or 3/4 cup of sugar and whisk that to combine everything. Then we are going to place this over a double boiler, which is just a small amount of water in a pot, and then we're going to place our KitchenAid mixer bowl on top of that and use the steam from the water as an indirect source of heat to help cook our eggs. So we're going to place our mixing bowl over the pot and we are going to whisk this continuously until it reaches 45 degrees Celsius. So you'll know that the eggs are ready when you pinch them and most of those sugar granules have dissolved. Once we've reached temp, we're going to move this onto our KitchenAid mixer and whip it at a high speed until the meringue gets shiny and fluffy and reaches a medium peak. While that's beating, let's segment some oranges. For those who don't know, segmenting an orange is when you cut away the pith and the fleshy membrane parts of the orange and you're just left with the juicy pulpy bits. It's a great way to step up your citrus presentation and it's super easy. So all you have to do is cut the ends off of your orange and begin to cut away the skin. Here you can see where the white pith ends and the orange begins. So I'm going to place my knife a hair behind the pith and then cut around the orange in a curved motion so that we cut away as little as possible. Once you've exposed the center of the orange, it should look something like this. Then we are going to locate the vertical slits that kind of differentiate each segment pocket, and we are going to cut a slice on each side, and then your orange segment should just pop out like this. So now we are ready to assemble. I am going to take my tart shell, and I did have a slight casualty when removing the tart ring, but don't worry because I was able to locate the missing piece and glue it back together using some pastry cream. Then I'm going to fill the base of the tart about 3/4 of the way high with our pastry cream. The texture of your pastry cream should be silky and custard-like. Then I cut out a piece of our pistachio pandan and I'm placing it into the tart. Now I'm taking our orange Cremeux with a 12mm tip and piping that around the tart. Since the orange Cremeux has a bit of gelatin in it, it's going to set up a bit bouncier than we need it to. So you just want to paddle it for about 3 minutes to help break up the texture so you can pipe it much easier. Then I am piping the Swiss meringue onto the tart using the same 12mm tip. And I'm going in a pretty random pattern here. I'm just aiming to get a little bit of everything in each bite. Then I'm placing our orange segments around the tart. And finally, I am lining the edge of the tart with some crushed pistachios, finishing with some orange zest, and we are all ready to dig in.
Just a secret. If you need anything, you gotta feel me.
For another recipe. You have so many different textures that work perfectly together when you're eating this tart, and the orange flavor is so bright and perfect for the summer. If you love almonds, pistachios, and nutty aromas like I do, you will love this tart, and I think it's definitely worth giving it a shot, and I think that anyone at any skill level can execute this. If you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop a comment down below or send me a DM on Instagram. I talk to you guys all the time on there and help you to troubleshoot your recipes. I will have the recipe, any specialty ingredients, and all of my social medias linked in the description bar below. If you enjoyed this recipe and want more ways to create edible art in the comfort of your own home, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Smash the like and subscribe button and comment down below of what you want me to do.
Time for the best part of the video. Crushed it.